Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 89. In this episode, I speak with Tommy Gunn. Tommy is an adult film star, and it was a true treat having him here this evening as he has an incredible life story, amazing energy, and he's just a cool dude. Awesome individual. I left very inspired after this conversation, and I can't wait for you to hear it. The book of the episode is going to be A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I thought this book was very fitting for our conversation because in this book, it's about awakening to your life's purpose, new beginnings, and that's a lot of what our conversation was tonight, is following your life path, new chapters. And I really thought that this tied in well. Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, book of the episode. If you want to listen to this podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you want to watch the podcast, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thesamdeverpodcast. Here's my conversation with Tommy. Well, Tommy Gunn, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
No, thank you so much for coming. I'm glad we were able to make this work. And we were just getting into the origin of the name.
Oh, yeah. How I got my name.
Yeah.
I'm going to start there. Let's think. Try to put put a year on it. 90s, something. 90s. I discovered at some point, girls like guys that work out, right? So found that out. So I started to do that and put some size on, and I remember going to a bar there in Jersey, Coastline it was called. I think I'm pretty sure it was a Coastline, and went in and saw an old friend that I hadn't seen in a while, and he's bartending, and he's like, "What? Man, look at you. You got the guns going, the arms, that's what they call them, right? Guns."
Yeah.
He goes, you got the guns. You should call yourself Tommy Gunn. And I thought, wow, there it was. That was the origin of the name Tommy Gunn. So I ran with it because shortly after that I was getting into the male dancing and I kind of needed a name. So yeah.
Okay, so that started during the dance period.
Yeah,
that was in Florida.
This is in Jersey.
So that was in Jersey.
Yeah, this starts in Jersey. If you historically, Chippendales started in the 70s, and it was the first time men had ever, taken their clothes off to inevitably entertain women, right? Women been doing it since the dawn of man, right?
Yeah.
Go in and watch women dance or whatever. So that whole Chippendales, that started in the early 70s, and then later in the 80s and 90s or whatnot, there was always little offshoots, of guys starting their little groups, like American Male was a name that I danced for. A guy, Satin Affair, then it was Hollywood's Hottest Men. So there's been all these shows, and then similar to Thunder from Down Under. I don't know when they started, but maybe right along time that the Chippendales fired up in the 70s. So that was that little stretch of time there. So
Yeah, and what was that exact moment you decided to get into the dancing, or what was there a certain opportunity that just opened up, or had you been thinking about it?
I had always been a shy kid, and like I said, I learned early on that the girls like the guys that worked out, and I was always, I'm not the tallest. I'm maybe 5'8", or now at this point I'm 5'7", because over the years gravity robbed me of an inch, so I'm 5'7" now. Anyway, I was an underdeveloped kid in high school, and I was like, fuck, I like girls, and how can I get their attention? So I learned again early on that girls like guys that worked out. So I started doing that. Eventually got into that scene, and if there was a guy I knew, a promoter in the Jersey area, and he promoted these ladies' nights. And it's a simple thing. You go to a club and you go, hey, you guys do your, throughout your week, women's, or Wednesdays are typically ladies' nights. Isn't that pretty much Wednesday?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So if I had to remember. So Wednesday, what he would do is he'd go into a club and say, hey, I got this show. It's like a hottest body show of guys taking their shirts off and doing this little strip thing. And it's a great way to get the girls to come in. And when you get the girls to come in, you're golden, because when the show's over, you got a bunch of guys off the street that been waiting, like, oh, they're ready to go in and they're all primed up. And that's, it's a pretty win-win situation.
Where the girls are, the guys follow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that was the
yeah.
nature of this cat's promoting, and the clubs, they all jumped on and said, yeah, we'll do it. You know, it was a simple thing. You know, you give us a couple hours, 2, 3, 4 hours early in the Wednesday, and then it segues into a bunch of dudes getting all fired up to meet these girls that have been watching these other dudes dance or whatever. So that was basically the nature of it. And then I knew a promoter, and he said, you should do it. And this was back then, I was just I was like, I don't know, you know, if I could do this or not. But eventually I knew, in order for me to follow that path, I had to throw myself to the wolves. You know, you gotta get out there, and whatever it is that you want to do, you know, it's going to be nerve-wracking and a little, intimidating or whatnot. And in this case, it was getting up on stage. You know, maybe it's public speaking or playing an instrument in a band. In this case, it was dancing and take your shirt and top, you know, your bottoms off or whatever, and leave this little, Speedo type thing on. So he said, you should do it. And I said, well, and eventually I brought myself to do it. And that was good because I met a gentleman there who was also in the hot body contest. I lost, but I met this guy. He said, you got a good look. You should, I'm in the circuit. He was from the North. I think he was from North Jersey, New York area. And any of the gentlemen that did that, were also modeling and trying to become actors. One guy did, As the World Turned, and all these, so any type of media that you could get in, like Playgirl magazine, that was a big thing, because if you were in that, then, that's what the MC says. This next guy, you may have seen him grace the pages of Playgirl magazine or whatnot, and once you kind of got that as an accolade, or whatever you want to call that, the women were just woohoo, even more than just a guy who was like, this next guy's never really been anywhere.
Instant credibility.
Or he was a calendar guy for this, and he was on, this soap opera, and so you add. So anyway, I met this guy, and we kind of, hey man, what's up? You got a good look, and if you ever want to do this, I know this. There's a circuit. It's kind of like imagine all the clubs in Jersey and New York and Delaware, and that have these ladies' nights, right? Similar to what the girls did. There was a these girls had a wet t-shirt similar type thing, but now I guess it was new to the world that guys would get up there and strut their stuff, so to speak. So that's how I got into that. And then from that day on, I got connected with this guy, Donnie, and he introduced me to this club owner and that place and this and that. And next thing you know, I'm dancing regularly a couple of times a week for this group here and that thing over there. And I finally broke out of that shell that I was in of being scared to death.
Was it an instant thing, like the first time you danced, or did it take a few times doing it to really?
No, it was pretty instant.
Yeah, wow.
I was like, wait, what? I made a few bucks. I'd look down and I got all this money in my briefs, it's just, and thought, this is not too bad. It's not so bad, right?
I think that's a great story, because that really, I'm butchering the analogy, but
Sure.
that whole analogy of everything you want's on the other side of fear.
Absolutely.
And you just had to step through that. And then as soon as you, oh my gosh,
that wasn't so bad, right? Yeah, but it's true. Fear prevents us a lot from doing many things. So,
yeah, no, fear. And then from that, eventually it took you to other things.
I did that for about 10 years.
10 years. Wow.
Tri-state area, Jersey, Delaware, New York. Yeah, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, tri-state area. And then had that injury.
Yes.
Which was, just to briefly put it into a quick story, I had worked out so much by then. I got really good. I kind of got hooked on working out, right? You got to look good for the girls, right? Yeah. Otherwise, you got to set yourself apart from the next guy. If you got a couple guys that maybe your favorite, more of a favorite than so you put in that work. And I was blessed with some good genetics and stuff. So working out really paid off for me. In fact, a bunch of the guys, kiddingly hated me. Not legitimately, but they were like, "Man, you're an asshole."
The
You don't
fellow
even-
dancers
Yeah,
did?
yeah. You don't even work out hard, and you look like you do. And I'm like, well, it's genetics. I was blessed.
Mm.
Well, in this case, long story short, I had put on a lot of size, and my legs, we call them wheels, guns and wheels.
Ah.
Yeah, my wheels, legs, were probably my better body part of everything.
Hmm.
I really got good response out of working out and stuff. I played soccer and all that stuff, and so at this point in my dancing and my just life and just having been working out and all those things, I got up pretty heavy. I was about 195 pounds for my frame, and I was at one point I was squatting the 4 plates on either side. So the bar's 145, and then you got all these other 45. So 845 was 405, 405 pounds with 4 plates on each side. And at my size 5'8", I was doing like 20 or 25 reps at 405. So my legs kind of just popped, boom,
Yeah.
and really responded well. So long story short, July 4th, I went to a 4th of July party with my wife at the time and got on a trampoline and proceeded to jump and inevitably tore my quadricep muscles off. One says, how on earth? I said, I don't know how on earth, but I must have momentarily generated enough pressure for the muscle. You got point of origin. I don't know, kinesiology and
Right.
and what do you call that? Anatomy and whatnot, where your muscles they originate and then they tie in down at the patellar tendon. Well, they ripped just above the knee on both legs, the quadricep, right where the muscle meets that saltwater taffy looking tendon.
Yeah.
They ripped off both of them. And anyway, it put me in the hospital for 5 days. That was the end of that career, or at least for a year. And I had to learn how to walk and all these things over again. And it was just, it came out of nowhere. It was one of the most broadsided, blindsided type of events. You know, those things that happen in your life when everything seems to be like, oh, this is great. And then boom, this thing happened. So I came back from that and I had wanted to do amateur bodybuilding. But once you change the shape of your muscles, it's all visual, you know. And once you change, they reattached them and I healed up a year later and I was back working out and, trying to come back, but you never have the same look. So that was what happened. I know you suffered somewhat of an injury too. So.
Yeah. So I was running down a hiking trail, which to anyone listening,
had an incline of some sort.
Going decline. Yeah. So
it's a lot of pressure on your quads.
That's what I found out. I don't know the stat, but it immediately adds like so much more pressure by you going the downward.
Absolutely.
Upwards, it's a lot better.
Different story.
So I don't even know how it happened. I either slipped on gravel or my foot got caught and leg went one way, I went the other. I had long pants on and I just I thought I broke my femur bone. That's what I thought had happened.
So where did the damage happen?
So I dislocated my knee and it tore ligaments and it damaged what's called the peroneal nerve that helps you lift your foot up like this.
Okay.
And in the hospital, they had to, I was not getting up from that one. And thankfully it was a crowded trail.
So there you are on the ground in pain, just suffered this moment.
I had to do the classic help. Like, I literally had to say.
Now, was your leg all over to the side?
Legs bent. And thankfully, I like we say, we got to look at the positives.
Sure.
I didn't go off the trail. That could have been really bad.
End up rolling down somewhere. We can't find them or something.
Exactly.
I just hear a voice.
Yeah. And really crowded trail. If it would have been out like Malibu somewhere where it's more isolated, it could have been really bad. So
out there
in that injury, one of the first things they check for is if you cut an artery. And thankfully, I didn't cut an artery in the leg. There's a big artery there.
Sure,
and it's what can happen because the bone just slices through everything.
So you snapped did you? I'm trying to understand. It was a dislocation, or
so the knee
you physically broke
no bone was actually broken, but I'm butchering the
Okay.
the true physiology of all this, but the knee basically slid off of the
Wow.
fibia or tibia, whichever one it was,
Okay.
and through that sliced ligaments and damaged my peroneal nerve. And
So it
I was
wiped out the entire knee joint. If I had to imagine,
Yeah,
it was like a
black
total
and blue.
catastrophic, just bad.
It was bad. It was bad. And that's why I was curious to talk to you about your injury
Sure.
too, because you don't realize how fragile life is until moments like that.
And you're like right in it.
and I had wiped out and played sports. I had all types
Sure.
of stuff, but this was a different ball. Like this was a level of pain and feeling that I had never
And
experienced.
to witness your body
Yeah.
not functioning like it was moments ago, and
Yeah.
it's obviously not. You see your legs over here, and you're like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to experience that
Yeah.
failure, literally that physical damage instantly is just.
And especially like you too,
Yeah.
like people that, because I love lifting weights. I love, I did
Sure.
it working out. Like I
Yeah,
did it.
yeah.
And it's like for people like us, it's like you go from being active all the time to sit down.
That's it.
You're not getting up. And then that's why
Sure.
when you said you were out for that long, I'm like, oh my
Right.
gosh. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
in this spot in a bed for at least a good 6 months, 6 to 9
Just
months.
not moving much.
I was on
Barely.
crutches and stuff. I say all that to say, like when I heard your story on Marcus Deegan's show,
Sure.
which was a great conversation with you guys, I related all too well. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, like because it was one of the most painful times of my life, but I also got so much insight and perspective and gratitude.
Out of the whole.
Because
Moment.
I try to explain to people when you're in that level of pain and you can't move, like you have no choice. Like
Yeah.
all those things you were worried about before, like are just gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if
trivial.
you had that experience at all.
No, the only thing concerning for me was getting through that day to the next, and hopefully they all string together. And at the end of this thing, when I come out the other side, I could stand up and walk and be okay. Now I get back to life and dealing with whatever silliness that we thought mattered.
And you were in a wheelchair for a long
Yeah, I
time
was
too,
like
right? Because you couldn't even
months.
get up and walk, like baby
No,
steps.
had
or
they
anything.
not done surgery, I'd have never walked ever again.
Wow.
Because the muscle ripped off. It's kind of like it's a suspension bridge tied in on both sides of the land, and then when it pops off on one side and everything goes to the other side, and you got to bring it on back and tie it in again. And I got 2 surgical steel screws in my kneecaps, which is what they did to suture and attach the. A lot of stuff changes throughout the years, approaches and medical kind of treatments and whatnot and stuff. And whether they would have done the same nowadays, but that's what they did back then. It was
Right.
probably 30 years now, right? About
Wow.
30 years ago. So I got about a 6-inch scar right down the center of each knee. And they just went in and opened it up and probably reached up there with his hand and pulled, or however they do it. But it was. He literally said, I want to do like a case study on, because this is not, I've never seen it to do 2. You'll see people do it. It's like an abrupt stop, or like somebody who would be on like a diver. You go up, you do that step, you land on the board, you compress, and then you go up in the air. There's that moment, or you slip in something, but I did, however I'd managed to do it.
So yours was kind of like mine. Was just the perfect storm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of an injury.
It was
He
just that one moment that you build up enough stress to rip it, snap it. And it sounded like a branch crack. Snap. You could hear it audibly.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So
I know this helped me, but you were really into physical fitness and all that. But that mentality into physical therapy, I'm sure, played a huge role.
yeah,
Like trying to get yourself back.
I literally did a scene. That scene played out for me in real life. That whole run, Forrest, run, because I had the hinges, I had the leg hinges throughout that process of it healing throughout the months and whatnot. Eventually, I was in these braces with hinges on, with the crutches, that whole with the cuff that goes around the
Wow.
back. And then eventually I went and, you know, I would go to physical therapy, you know, 3 times a week and learn how to walk again. Literally, our gait, that's what we call it, right? That's the gait, is the term for your walking. I had to concentrate on my gait and learn how to walk once I finally could do that again, which was, and it blows my mind to now. It's just up and about and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But back then, I was nervous in a sense where I was like, you know, do I have like, are these going to be like weak legs for the rest of my life, or going to be able to do stuff that I used to do? And
Right.
luckily, I can do, but I still take it easy, you know.
Yeah. And that's what someone told me when I had this injury. They're like, hey, wishing you a great recovery, but they're like, you will never view things the same again.
Yeah.
And like, there's certain moments where I'm like, you know what?
Yeah,
I will take the long
Yeah,
path.
let's go around.
I don't need to risk it. Like, I'm not going to skydive anytime
You know?
soon. Like,
We got to think consequentially as we get older, you know. When we're kids, we're like, pile up the ramp as high as possible
Yeah.
and tell me when the car's coming. Jump it. Rah. Yeah, you know, and just crash like, you know, ass over tin cups on the other side of the
oh
street.
yeah, it was
Get up
crazy.
and whatever.
And that's what I mean. Like growing up as kids, I mean, we were riding bikes, we were wrecking all the
We
time.
you need that.
Yeah.
Kids these days don't get that. And that's what
No, they don't.
I think that's an injustice in some way because you're not developing strong a constitution. Call that a strong constitution, you know, is you know, to be able to suck things up and deal with pain and whatnot, you know, get up and put some dirt on it and get up and do. Kids are so, what's the word, protected that. What are you doing? It's bad. You're gonna have this
Yeah.
this child who, you know, can't do anything.
Glued to an iPad. You know?
Right? It's a scary thought. I mean, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, no,
Right.
definitely. So you come out of the injury. You're in New Jersey area still?
Still there. I'm finally up on my feet, and I'm like, it's time to leave Jersey. Let's move and go to Florida. So
Okay.
at the time, I was with a girlfriend. I said, let's go. She and I moved. We were married, actually. We moved to Florida, and then started our life there. And I got back into the dancing scene because that was what I knew that would bring in the money quickest, you know. And it was tough at first when I first got up there because I hadn't worked out. I was kind of lost a lot of weight. And here I was, okay, it's time to start working out again and dealing with some of the pain in the knees and stuff just naturally from that thing. And eventually I came back from it and I started dancing and was back. Not good as new, but as good as I could be. So then I remained I stayed in Florida. Just a condensed thing. I stayed in Florida a couple more years. My wife and I, at some point, kind of, you know, things fell apart and she went on her way. I remained in Florida. And it was strange because, you know, in our lives, we have these moments of, you know, the first tragic thing that happened to me as a young man was at 27, my mom passed away. And it was sudden and very tragic. And it was hard to understand how and all that stuff that even took place. And then shortly after that, I got hurt. And then shortly after that, within a couple of years, my wife split. So I was like 1, 2, 3,
Wow.
3 big events that took place that were pretty tough to come back from. And then when she eventually left, I remained in Florida and kind of went on a bit of a self-destruct kind of, what's this kind of drug? Oh, let's try that one. Or what does this do? You know, I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to, you know, self-destruct mode. But luckily I managed to live through it. As we mentioned earlier, in today's world, it's a far different, you know, you're not just trying the drug. It might be laced or cut with something else that's intentionally put in there for
Yeah.
some, you know.
Yeah. And there's no going back. Like once it's
Yeah.
game
Yeah.
over.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've done enough drugs and uh, went through a lot of really dark times, and I'm surprised I came out the other end, you know, because it was definitely a hard, a tough period there.
What helped pull you out of that? Like, was there like a
I'll
specific
tell you,
moment or
I'll
thing?
tell
or-
you, I discovered the adult industry.
Hmm.
And how that happened was while I was in Florida dancing and carrying on and doing, by the network of people that I met were fellow guy dancers, and they had their girlfriend dancers, and it was like a stripper type. We all would go to the beach and hang out, and but drugs were a pretty common, denominator with all of us, and I guess call it a phase because luckily I managed to get through it. But at that moment, you know, it was it's on, it's party time, and it was just a cycle. And then while I was dancing, uh, I met a girl because we danced. We worked at a club on one side, the guys danced for the girls, and on another side, the girls danced for the guys. And so when we were done, we'd mosey over to the other side, and the girls were finishing up, and you'd fraternize with a couple girls. Hey, hi, whatever. Next thing you know, you're hanging out with them, right? So I met one. I met a few, but this one particular, we would fool around, and as I tell the story, I used the example of her, after we had sex, smoking a cigarette. Wow, that was amazing. And I'm in bed like, well, thanks, I appreciate it. I'm thinking, what? And she says, you really, what you're doing? I'm like, well, I was winging it. So she would say, you should make movies. You ever considered making adult movies? I said, what? No, I've never crossed my mind. She says, well, I've actually made a few. And in fact, I've been going to Los Angeles every couple months or weeks or whatnot. And I go out there and film, and then I come back and work. I said, wow, really? She says, yeah. She says, if you want, I leave next week and I go out to Los Angeles to film. And if you want to go just to see what it's like, you can go. I'll take you. In fact, I'll give you the money that you'll lose by stepping away from working and go with me. I said, okay, fair enough. So I went and ended up out here in Los Angeles for about a 10-day stretch. And she rented a car, and so I drove the car and, had her bags, and, she had her little itinerary. She would go to this production company and this director and work at this location and work with this guy So I would take her and, help her get set up, and she'd go into makeup, and then I'd find some quiet part of the house and go hang out while, the day progressed. And the next thing you know, I hear them. I'm like, oh, I guess they're working, and then after that we'd end, we would, okay, it's time to go. And then, so in that 10-day stretch, like I said, I met a couple directors and producers, and she would go and have a meeting with them because she was new. So I guess she was kind of carving out to the producers and directors what she would do or not do.
Mhm.
Basically, I'll do this and I won't do that and I won't. But then I would be sitting off to the side, and then after they would have that conversation, the director like yourself would say, who's this guy? And she would spout off, that's Tommy Gunn, and he could fuck good, and he's this and that. And I said, hold on, I appreciate it, but I'm just kind of trying to see the lay of the land. He says, well, you got a good look and this and that. So again, this as the story, I've told the story so many times, this kind of, that one of the days I met a gentleman, Brad Armstrong, from a company called Wicked Pictures, and I come to discover in our conversation, he took us to dinner, and at one point the young lady got up and excused herself and went to the restroom. So it was he and I left with each other, and I said, hey man, this she's all fired up. She wants me to do porn and shit. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So what do you expect? What would a guy like me expect to get into business? He says, well, the best way to do it is you come in with a girl like her. And at one point or another, because, new talent is exactly that. It's new, right? Who's the new hot star? So the director of this company or that company, hears about them and wants to shoot them, right? So maybe they'll set up a scene. We want you to shoot a scene with us. And she'll say, I'll shoot one, but with him. And as a guy, new guy who's never done anything, that's how you get your break. Now you get to stand at the plate with the bat, metaphorically, and hopefully hit the ball or not. But that's at least your chance. And what I discovered with him was he had a background of being a dancer too, so we kind of related. He danced up in Canada, so he says, "Well, you got a good look, and if you ever want to consider doing it, here's my card." So I said, "Okay, I'll keep this card, right?" So she comes back, and so eventually we end up going back to Florida, and she goes her way, I go mine, and I keep this business card. And I remembered what he said. He says, "Let me know if you ever, I'll see if I can help you out." So I go back to my world, and that's dancing and working on motorcycles. There, I did some, I have a background of motorcycle mechanics and stuff. So I was working in Florida, doing these things, and I got this opportunity if I can decide to do it. So there I was again, second moment, kind of like the dance moment, but now it's a new opportunity about potentially being an actor in adult entertainment, which I thought was what I had been doing anyway as a dancer, strip in, whatever. That's adult entertainment, right? It's just not, it's just one last garment of clothes that we didn't take off, or whatever. So in this case, I go back to Florida, I keep this guy's card, and in the back of my mind, I didn't jump at the opportunity because, again, there I was at this moment, a little intimidated, like, shit, I wonder if I could do that. It's a big difference. Having sex with a girl at your own leisure in your own bedroom with nobody peeking in or doing anything, but it's an entirely different ballgame when you're on set and the set was paid for, and then you got a particular wardrobe on, and you got a script, and you got lights, just like in cat, and that's a lot of pressure. So it's a far different thing. A lot of guys think, "Oh yeah, I can do that," and then they get on set and miserably fail. So that was a bit of a daunting thought. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I can even do that." So it took me 4 years of carrying this guy's business card around to basically decide to take the plunge or try to do it. So when I finally did, that's what I call, like I said, every couple months, I would show people like, "Dude, check this card out." They read it. "Oh, what the fuck is this?" What? Wicked. It's a porn. Yeah, it's a porn director guy I met. He gave me his card. He said if I ever want to do porn, I could do it. And my friends would be like, "No way, that's great." I'm like, "Give me that card back." You know what I mean? So that's kind of in my mind, and some of the things that I would show my friends and stuff. And I kind of had this. It's kind of like if I had met Steven Spielberg and he says,
Right.
"If you ever want to become an actor, let me know." "Oh, okay, fine." So I did. I kept this card, and every couple months I would call. Like I would be with a couple of friends. I'm gonna call. Hold on, watch. Bring. "Hey man, what's up?" "Oh, hey, it's Tommy Gunn." "Oh shit, what are you doing?" "I'm on set right now." "Oh, what are you doing?" He says, "Oh, we're making a movie. You want to say hi to like Jessica Drake or one of these stars, Stormy Daniels or at the time or whatever, whoever's Jenna Jameson, whatever." I was like, "No way." I said, "Nah." He says, "All right, let me go. Let me know let me know when you decide to do it." So I'd hang up and be like, "Shit." So 4 years of that, I eventually decided at 36 years old, I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to try it. And I called him up and I said, "Hey." He says, "Uh-oh, are we having another conversation of you being chicken?" I said, "No." I said, "I think I'm finally going to do it." He says, "Okay, you come to your senses." I said, "So what do I do next?" He says, "Well, there's an event in Las Vegas called the AVN. And AVN stands for Adult Video News. And it's a media outlet. It's a big company that would chronicle and they would review and critique some of the movies and different things. So they were big. They were big at the time, and they were kind of like the industry standard of media coverage and whatnot. He says, there's an event there. If you want to go, I suggest you meet me there and I'll introduce you to the entire industry. So that's what I did. I went out, told my boss at the time I was doing some mechanic work with this gentleman fixing motorcycles. And I said, hey, you remember that card I got with the porn thing? He goes, yeah, I remember. I said, I think I'm going to try it. He goes, come on. I said, yeah. I'm not getting any younger, you know? He's like, all right. I said, I need you to let me, next week, I'm going to go out to Vegas for a long weekend. He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I went out and I met Brad and he introduced me to the whole, it took me physically around to every director and producer. And at this point, these were the booths of Vivid and Digital Playground and Adam and Eve and Hustler and, you know, all these big companies. And back then in 2004 or 2003, the business was still booming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was lines down the hall, hours just to meet the big stars of the women there. So he takes me around physically. All right, let's go. And he takes me around and brings me right up to the damn front of the line, introduces me to the company owner and producer and directors and this is the new guy, Tommy Gunn. I couldn't have had a better introduction. The only thing missing was I had never done anything of any sort. And he says, just tell him you've done some internet scenes. And I'm like, all right. But because the internet wasn't popular back then, you couldn't search anything. You know, it was very minimal. So here I was, literally being taken around by Steven Spielberg, so to speak, being introduced kind of like at the Oscars. Oh, come on, we'll take you into, and I'd never acted a day in my life yet. I mean, you know, from a performance standpoint, I've never had sex on camera before, ever. So I don't even know if I could do it. So I get all these business cards and I go back to Florida and I tell my boss, hey man, I'm going to try this. And he goes, yeah. I said, yeah, there's no, you know, I'm not getting any younger. He says, all right. I said, I'm selling everything I got, which wasn't much. An old beat up truck. And I had an old motorcycle in the trailer. And I said, I'm going to drive out in about 3 weeks to Las Vegas because I have an old girlfriend out there who has a couch I can sleep on. I mentioned, hey, I'm going to be trying to do this thing. And she's like, really? I said, yeah. She's like, all right, come out and stay on the couch. So I packed my whole life up, which wasn't much. And I go out to, and it's funny, I actually brought my boss's nephew. He was a young kid in his 20s. I said, you want to take a ride to Vegas with me? I'll fly you home. You can come keep me company driving across country. He's like, yeah, sure. So we jump in the car and we drive out to Vegas. I tell my boss, hey man, I'll see you around. I'm going out to become a porn star, you know? And again, I had never done anything. So I get out to Vegas. To Vegas and I end up flying his nephew back. And now I'm in Vegas and I'm talking to my a girlfriend of mine that I know. And she's like, you really going to do it? And I said, yeah, I'm going to try it. She's nervous. I said, of course. So Brad says, okay, I'm going to call you with a date and tell you what date I'm going to put you in a movie. We're going to give you a shot. I said, okay. He says, so he calls and says, okay, write this down. April 16th, these are the location. This is what you're doing. He says, I'm going to start you out with just a blowjob scene where you meet the girl and she does oral on you. I said, okay. He says, this way we can see, you know, if you can at least pull that off versus a whole scene, you know, a full boy girl scene. So he was smart in the capacity that he set me up to do the scene in this particular movie. It was called Fluff and Fold. And if you know anything about laundromats, it's a service that you pay. It's called the Fluff and Fold service, that you show up with your dirty laundry. They wash it and clean it and fluff it and fold it and then deliver it to you. You come pick it up. And so that was the nature of this movie. And basically, this movie revolved around a laundromat. So typically a movie has about 5 scenes in it. Boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, BJ scene, and something else. So you have a big variety. And that was kind of like the cookie cutter, so to speak, of these movies. That's how they did them. So they had contract stars in this camp of wicked pictures. So what they would do is each girl, maybe they got 4 or 5 contract girls, is each girl would do a scene, and they would pair it up with a guy or do, in this particular movie. And under the premise of this laundromat. So you can imagine, the little things that took place in this laundromat. Well, in my case, I came in I was just a random guy coming into the laundromat to take a leak. So I come in, and I go, hey, can I use your restroom? And someone says, oh yeah, it's over there. And I go over there and I start to open the door, and then here comes Randy Spears. Randy Spears was a big star back then and still is, and has since retired from the business. But at the time, he was the guy I was acting opposite of. So picture being in your first movie in in a mainstream sense, and I'm acting opposite of Al Pacino. First movie, that kind of thing. So I go to use the restroom, and he comes over, and he's got like a hairnet on, and he's playing like some foreigner because he has this accent. He goes, "Come use the restroom," and I said, "Why? I just got to go." He goes, "Look at the sign," and the sign says, "Customers only." And I go, "Shit, okay." And I think, pop, I take the shirt off real quick and throw it go over to it, open up a washer, and throw it in there. And I think, okay, now I'm a customer, right? So I go to use the restroom in the door, and he says, "Look, look at the other sign. It says no shirt, no shoes, no service, right? No shoes, no shirt, no service." And I go, shit. All the while, there's a girl who's in her laundry basket, taking her clothes out, and she's just kind of watching this unfold, this little moment of between he and I. So I see that sign, and it says you can't go in there without a shirt. So she takes a shirt, this little tiny tank top, woman's type, that says "sexy bitch" on it, and throws it to me because now I'm shirtless. So I put it on. I go, oh, okay. I put it on. It's like very form-fitting, tight, barely fits. And he gets in a huff, like, oh shit, now you got a shirt. So I went into the restroom, and then she's watching from a distance this whole thing unfold. So he disappears, and then so I go in the restroom, and then she decides, I'm gonna go in there. And that's how the scene unfolds. She sneaks in, and then what takes place is just a BJ scene in there. So he was smart in the sense that he set it up in the bathroom, so I didn't have anybody else around to lights or cameras or sound guys to intimidate me, right? I only had the camera guy. So it was me, the camera guy, and her. So that was my first scene. And it was, I was a little nervous and stuff, but, I managed to pull it off and do it. So what happened was after that, he basically got on the phone with a bunch of his other friends and said, hey, I tested him out and he does well and he's good. So if you want to hire him, he's available. So then I met another gentleman that I had met who was from Philadelphia. He was out in Vegas when I went out there that first time to meet everybody. And he was a director for a company. And so he brought me on, and then one thing led to another. I did a boy-girl scene with him, with a girl, and he directed it. And then another one, and I did that. I did well. And so through time, it just progressed. First month, I may have worked one day. Second month, 2 scenes. Third month, a few more. So I was blessed that I got a good reception and managed to figure out how everything kind of worked early on. And then truth be told, that's what saved me in a way to quit drugs and get on a path of a better path. I saw this business as a legitimate opportunity to do well at, and you can't do well as being an alcoholic or a drunk or a drug addict and doing that stuff. It's all physical. You got to treat yourself like an athlete, and that's basically what I did. I realized, okay, if I were to get good at this, I can't be doing those things. So I quit, and I quit. I won't say cold turkey, but I just never did it anymore. And then I won this award. It was called the Best Male Newcomer. And then the next year we did a big movie, Pirates, for Digital Playground. And they hired me to play the bad guy. That was a big deal. It was one of the bigger productions in the history of adult. And then I won an award for that. And by the third year, I won Male Performer of the Year and all these other things. And everything was just, so it all happened so fast. I was blessed. And I contribute my success to kicking the habit and cleaning up myself, cleaning my act up. I was never an alcoholic per se. Alcohol wasn't my thing. Cocaine and all these other things were. And I just realized porn in some capacity saved my life because it gave me something to work towards and to aspire to be better at versus, but with some people, they get into business and it's the opposite. They get in and they've never done anything, and while they're in the business, they got this rock and roll porn star lifestyle, and the next thing you know, they get all banged up drinking and alcohol and whatnot, and ODing in a ditch, and they're not as lucky. But for me, it was the opposite. So, in pretty much of a nutshell, that's how I was. I guess in one sense or another, one would say blessed that such an industry that people frown upon and look down their nose at, in this case, saved me because it gave me something to strive and do, to be good at and to succeed at. And again, it's not everybody's, society, right?
Yeah.
Society looks down its nose at it. It's got its place. Oh, it's not so this, that, and the other, but but I managed to take something that was maybe not, deemed as some positive lifestyle or path or whatnot, and made it work for me and be successful. And now, this many years later, 20 years later, I won every award they got and been inducted in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for XRCO. And again, some people might say, oh, yeah, well, you won awards in some industry that's terrible. And I'm like, well, whatever you want to say is whatever they want to, what can I say? What people say, right? How can I affect what people think of something? But there's nowhere I go that people don't say, dude, Tommy Gunn. I was just in New York and I couldn't go 10 feet without people going, dude, come here, fuck Tommy Gunn and shit. So, I don't know, call that what you want to call it. I've been to Italy and Prague and around the world different times and been recognized over here and there. And it's never been, you're going to burn in hell. It's always been, dude, you're my biggest hero. I love what you do. And, so.
That's an incredible story, my friend.
I mean, and again, it's still happening. Like today, right now, at this moment, I'll be 57 in May 13th. What are we at now? April 21st. Well, it's, another however many days, 20 days or so. I'll be 57, and I never thought I'd get to this point because of the stupid choices I made and some of the bad things that I got involved in, the drugs and alcohol and other, activities. So, in just that sense, I feel like I'm a success story because I'm still up and about doing it. And, whether it can inspire someone or not, my path and how I managed to just get up again, brush yourself off. You fall down 7 times, you get up 8.
Mm.
And again, we're in an industry that people, have their opinions about, but it's legitimate. And I wasn't hurting anybody or killing anybody or doing anything that would, get me in trouble. And that was how I managed to get past all that darkness and those really hard times. And again, it's my first time. I've never been me before. I've never been who I am. It's my first time. You too, right? It's all our first time. This is the first time out. So again, if you can inspire somebody by your story, motivate somebody to just keep going and I think if I had to mention some of my bigger aspirations and dreams was when I was a kid, I saw big screen movies. Wow, I want to be in movies. I saw Rocky. Everybody remembers that one, right?
It's a great one.
I got a poster of Rocky above my bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the truth
I love
and the
Rocky.
truth of the matter is Sylvester Stallone, when he tells his story, he says, I was a kid and I would cut school and I'd go to the movies and I would watch Steve Reeves as Hercules or whatever in this movie, Charlton Heston, all these big heroes, and despite the against all the odds, they knew they were going to fail, yet they continued to put power on, and I watched that interview with him, and it inspired me enough to be like a result of his actions that I can say that I stand here at the moment influenced and inspired by him, Sylvester Stallone. And, although I've never met him, I look up to him in some way, shape, or form as just an inspiration, because when I was a kid, I went and saw Rocky. That was my Steve Reeves Hercules movie. I watched Sylvester Stallone get his butt kicked, yet win or prevail and get up again and keep going, and then throughout the years and whatnot, all the movies he's done, and he's a huge inspiration to me. So again, our paths are entirely different, but still kind of parallel in some capacity that, you see something that inspires you and it motivates you and you get up and you put your one foot in front of the other and keep going and pushing. And like he would say, you get up and keep punching, right? So I would like to do some acting and stuff. And although I feel like I painted myself in a bit of a corner with the adult stuff, that, how would Hollywood or any of these other organizations or other people feel about, including me at their table to sit and be in a movie or something? Because at the end of the day, that's how it works, right? In some sort of comparison, you stand at the curb of Hollywood and here comes the bus, metaphorically, that's the movie. And the doors open and you go, hey, and they go, sorry, you can't be on our movie because you're him and you've done that. And I go, oh, okay, great. And the bus doors shut and they take off, right? Well, what we've seen Rocky or Sylvester Stallone do is he created his own opportunities. He made his own bus because he had rejection and this and all these other things too, right? If you follow his story and stuff, they say he did an adult movie, and I don't know, it was some Italian stallion or something.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
But the difference between him and myself is, he's done maybe one or two. I've done 3,000 in a different era, where maybe back then it was different. I don't know, acceptable or not. I don't know. There's if we do some research and we look, we can probably determine who as present day actors or actresses found their way into Hollywood by virtue of the adult path, right? I'm sure there's people who started out there and then crawled out of that or got beyond that or came or whatever we want to call that. So I still feel hopeful. I've done a few things. I've done Entourage. I've done Wolves. Wolves was a movie with Jason Momoa and Lucas Till. My last movie I did was called Gangsterland. I think it was 2019 with Milo Gibson, Jason Patrick, Michael Pare. I played Mayor Deaver.
Really?
Is that how you pronounce your last name? Dever. Well,
but most say Deaver anyway.
Deaver, which was funny because I remember learning, I was like, get out of town. It's the same. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And if you research that, if you look it up, Gangsterland with Milo Gibson, you can come up and find the cast, and there I am. And what was funny was I always thought, I would love to see myself on the big screen, right? As a kid, I was inspired to I would love to see that one day. And it happened. I saw myself on the big screen at the Egyptian Grumman Theater in downtown when Pirates premiered there. We had our own private premiere with the lights and the red carpet and all the media people taking pictures and getting out of the limousine. There I was walking down. And then we go into the theater and then poof, on the screen, boom. And there I am on this big screen. And that was the first time. And then the second time was the second Pirates, Stagnetti's Revenge. We had the same thing, a big screening. And then it happened another couple other times, of which was Gangsterland and then Wolves, that I actually watched in a theater. And there I was. So some of my, I guess, dreams have actually become reality. And it's kind of cool. But if I could meet Sylvester Stallone one day, I would tell him this. I'd say, hey, you did this. And he would go, what do you mean? I said, well, by your actions and your life and the things you've done and whatnot, you've influenced me enough to want to pursue those things myself. And so I'm a result of you in some capacity. I think I'm sure he's heard that before, because that's what it's all about. You get out there and do stuff, and indirectly you inspire people, So in a smaller capacity, I get it. I've heard that from people like, oh man, I remember one time I was in Vegas at a convention, 2008, and I met Richard Dreyfuss. I was at a booth and I was premiering a 3D movie that I developed. And a woman says, hey, Tom, you got a minute? I want to introduce you to this gentleman who wants to see you for a sec. He's a big fan. I said, give me 1 sec. I'm over here. I'm just finishing up. And there I was in Vegas in this big convention hall. And I wrap up doing something over here. And I go, I'm sorry, where is this gentleman? And she goes, come here. And I turn and it's Richard Dreyfuss. She says, Mr. Dreyfuss, this is Tommy Gunn. He goes, I know Tommy Gunn. I'm a big fan. And I said, what? Yeah. I said, come out. As we shake his hand, he goes, yeah. He says, I know you. I said, let me sign a movie. So I sign him a movie, this 3D movie. And I'm just blown away, right? Here's Oscar winner, award winner, telling me he's a fan of me. It's hard to, So we have a moment, we get a photograph, and I'm just like beside myself. And he manages to, he says, I'll let you get back to what you're doing. I said, okay. And he takes off. And I'm with friends, and I'm like, you believe that? It's unbelievable. So a few hours goes by, we're packing up the booth. And I says, okay, it's time to get out of here. We're going to go get cleaned up, and there's some event later that night. So as we're leaving, I see him in the midway, and he's got his Red Light hat. Red Light used to be a company that made the adult movies and stuff. And he had his bags full of swag and different things. And he had his badge on, And I go over and say, Richard, I couldn't help notice you're just sitting here. Are you busy? He says, no, I said, would you got time? I'd love to have dinner with you. You want to have some dinner with me? I'm hungry. He says, yeah, sure. Why not? I said, great, let's go. Next thing you know, we're walking, side by side. And a lot of my peers from the business are kind of like, what? How's Tommy Gunn know Richard Dreyfuss? So we end up at the Lux Cafe, and we get seated. And one of the people that are seating people notices us. He says, come on up to the front. Next thing you know, we go in there. We sit down, and we spent about 4 or 5 hours talking about his career, mine. He's crying, I'm crying. We're both just emptying our pockets, so to speak, of things. And he says, you got good chops. You could be an actor. And I said, get out of here. Come on. He says, no, I'm serious. So that's just a small version of some of the cool things that I've experienced. I'm writing a book, and I'm actually putting a lot of this stuff in the book. There's quite a few of these types of events, that I've had with some really amazing people. So you know, again, like I mentioned, I've yet to meet Sylvester Stallone, but who knows? Maybe the stars will line up someday, and that would be cool.
I can totally see you and Stallone doing like a Rambo movie.
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
Like for sure.
I don't know.
Like action
You know what
packed.
I mean? And he would appreciate and understand that thing about you got to be welcome at the table. If nobody sits you down, you know, if nobody's willing to give you the chance, you can have as much ambition and inspiration and as much as you want, but at some point it's out of your control. You know, it's up to that person unless you manage to
Make your own.
make your own.
Yeah.
And you know, I actually wrote a script with him in mind and wanted to present it to him. And I knew his brother, but it was an interesting situation. But Frank's a nice guy. Again, if it's supposed to happen, it will. You can't force things. You can't chase people. You can't make someone do that. I can't run onto the movie set and be like, I'm in your movie. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I'm not leaving. You know what I'm saying? Be like, you get out. You know what I mean? I want to be in this movie. You can only, you know, you can only hope that they include you, or you got to make your own.
What type of movies is there any type of genre that you want
Well,
to be
I've
in?
always liked action. Like,
Action,
you
yeah.
know, action's cool because at the end the guy gets the girl, right?
Yeah.
So
All right. Then what's the movie? The Expendables? Is that's where they have like Schwarzenegger,
yeah, all those
Chuck
guys.
Norris,
You know what
like
I mean?
all the badasses.
You know
in
what I mean?
We're
Hollywood.
one gun short. We need a Tommy guy.
We're one gun short.
You
And
just
then I
show
show
up,
up. Hey,
like-
you guys, is it okay?
The grenades like
Yeah.
hanging from you.
I may have had sex with a lot of girls. Is that all right? With you guys? Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You
know
come
what I
in flying from a plane or something.
what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, and that ties in
Parachuting.
too, because I mean, this is like totally pivoting because there's like 10,000 questions I have, but
Yeah.
because you have the bug out van, right?
I've had multiple things that I enjoy building stuff, and it all
Yeah.
stems back from when I was a kid. I had a Volkswagen Bug, and I tricked
Gotcha.
it out, or Volkswagen Bus, and I tricked it out, and so that was kind of the beginning. But referring to the Bug Out van that I built and sold on Pawn Stars, the television show.
Yeah.
But present day, since then, I built an even bigger truck. It's a 5-ton, retired 5-ton troop carrier that I've converted into a living space, and that's what I reside in when I'm in Vegas. I live in Colorado these days, but I'll travel in. I'll travel in from Colorado, and then I park this truck at a buddy's house, and it's this big military, just unbelievable. It's like, what? Look at this thing. It's unbelievable. That's what you're referring to. I think.
Yeah. So I know you're talking about just the action stars, like just Rambo, everything, like survival mode. You know,
Well, my thoughts were, and it's funny because when you mentioned Expendables years ago, how many are there now? The five,
there's a lot of
five
them.
or six?
I'll look it up.
Okay.
I'll make myself useful.
So there was a time when the first one was coming out, and I was like, wow, you know, how cool. And then the next one, and then the next one. And I always thought, you know, that'd be neat if somehow I could squeeze in there and be a, but, you know, whatever. I thought it would be comical.
So there's been 4, it looks like, and so you'd be in the 5th.
In the fifth.
That's not out of the realm of possibility,
Well,
though. Seriously,
I
because you
feel
know
like I got
people
a
who know
better
people that would know
Opportunity of
people
being
that
pregnant or something.
Right? You never
You know
know.
what I mean?
Because you're
Again,
recognizable. People know you.
well,
so
you know, at the end of the day, that has a value of some sort,
sure.
but whoever's pulling the strings, how do they see that? You know, do they see that? Like, because that was a goal that I always had, and I wanted to somehow, some way, transition from adult to more mainstream and get good reception and traction to a point where I was just welcomed and not. I was welcomed and not. It didn't sit like awkwardly because people were like, "Well, you put them in a setting that it works." Like, wait a minute, I've been the hero for the last however many years by guys on the street that say, dude, you're my fucking hero. You know, you have sex with these beautiful women, or, you know, you're so cool and you're this and you're that. And I go, I don't know how cool I am, but to them, they think I'm a hero. So maybe if I was in a hero movie, action hero, whatever. And again, I pride myself on being physically fit and whatnot. And truth be told is, you know, if I trained for one of these movies and I managed to get in Expendables 6 or whatnot, would people scratch their head and go, nah, I'm not buying it? Tommy Gunn, he's like an oddball, get him out of there. Or would he go, what? Dude, he's swinging in and shooting people, cutting necks and kicking doors down. I buy it. I don't know.
I'm going to that
You know
movie.
what I mean?
I'm
I'll
telling
be
you.
seeing that one, right? And again, who knows? It's just it's funny to laugh at.
I think now, and I'll get your opinion on this. I think now would be more. Now, 20 years ago when you're talking, I know.
Yeah.
I think now we're to a point though, and I was curious to get your perspective on where the industry's gone now. Because now, I mean, you were during the classic age of making those feature film
Sure, the big movies.
Now
Yeah,
there's the
yeah.
internet.
Yes,
there's
so many
apps
less-
and OnlyFans, and you go on Instagram now, and it's basically softcore stuff on all the social media
Oh my God,
platforms
right?
constantly. So I'm like, I bring that up to say now I don't think it's out of the realm of questioning. It would be more acceptable today in Hollywood to start going the mainstream route. with
Sure.
It's like someone needs to. It eventually will happen. I mean, especially with like the reverse is happening with like the OnlyFans of certain people that already have celebrity, and then they start doing that. So that's kind of someone just needs to break the industry to be the first one, essentially.
And that was my goal. I was like, man, can
Yeah.
I do it? Can I? That's that was kind of one of my things. Like, can I like break that mold?
Because
and
there's
then end up-
undoubtedly that stigma's there. Like, and you understand, like they're probably looking at the numbers, like, we want this to be a family movie and this might hurt.
Well,
that's or something like that. But like,
Is Expendables or is
Right.
Fast and Furious or is on and on and on, those types of genre movies, action, shooting guns, Statham,
they're killing people.
I mean, come on, right? They're killing people.
it's rated
And then
R.
I show up and I swing through the door and shoot a couple guys too and do a flip and land and whatever. They're going to go, cut. What's he doing here?
Right.
Get him out of here. No, they would be like, wait, did I? They would go, oh my God, fuck. It's about time. Unless again, I'm delusional. It's possible. Who knows, right? But we're not trying to. I've heard that multiple times throughout my years. Man, you're such a man's man. You're so this and that, and guy fans are like, dude, you're cool. It's this and you're that and whatever. And I don't know. I think what happens is sometimes there's a male type of behavioral thing where, guys, similar to women, pretty girls see another pretty girl and they got that. I don't like her. You're like, why? You don't even know her, right? It's just threatening, or it's something, right? Maybe that happens. Maybe I'm like, hey, I'd like to be in your movie, and they're like, he looks better than half of us guys. Nah, we don't want him around, or something. Maybe. I don't know.
No, that could absolutely be a thing.
Because it's
like
a
you said,
male thing.
yeah.
It's a male,
Yeah.
and it's happened to me quite often in my life, in my career, in multiple capacities. I've been invited to the party, metaphorically. Oh, invite him. He'll bring chicks. He knows them all. Or don't invite him because he'll screw all the girls while we're partying. And I'll be like, that's not. But you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Is that, and like, I've been on, I was on Sons of Anarchy. I was a background little player and day player, just kind of in the distance or whatnot. And, at the time I was working out and I was like, how can I get from the back to the front and be like, and have a casting person say, what the fuck's he doing in the back? Bring him up to the front. Throw a vest on this guy. Let's get him tatted up, put him on and now he's like a regular because he fits. And people know him. and it's all about ratings and getting people to watch something. It's called Butts in the Seat. There was a reference years ago. We need butts in the seat, right? Well, if after 20 years of me working in all these medias, for example, magazines, DVDs, internet, cable, all these other outlets of how to see the footage. You know, I've been to Italy and Prague and anywhere around the world, and people are like, dude, what? Tommy Gunn and whatever. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own ass. I'm just telling you what they said. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just showed up and they said, stand here. And I did. And they said, say these lines. And I said them. And then I had sex with a pretty girl and did good at it. And maybe some guys just can't, you know, they're like, I don't know. Because everybody wants to be good in bed and be good with the opposite sex or whatever they're into or whatever. That's what you inspire to be, right? Men, women, they want to be good at doing those things, right? I think, maybe I'm confused.
It drives the world.
It drives the world.
It drives
it's true.
sex, drives the
Wars
world.
have been started over stuff like that. Yeah.
Right? I mean, so when I show up, or maybe I am potentially on the roster, like, oh, we could have him. Someone goes, we don't want him because he'll make half of us look stupid. Maybe. I don't know. Or he can't act to save his life. Or maybe I can't. But you're going to tell me that everybody else in Hollywood that's acting and doing these movies or whatever are some like thespian, Juilliard, fucking whatever? No, I don't think so.
All right, here's a question for you, Tommy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How many terrible actors have we seen? And they're still working.
There's
I'm
a
not-
place for you in Hollywood.
Yeah, def.
And I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody, but I mean, I don't know.
Eric, you had a
I
question?
have a question. So, like, you
What
know,
do I know? What do I know?
No, I think you're onto something.
would you be
here.
willing to, you know, start at the bottom,
Of
you know,
course.
doing all like the student fit, like
I would
basically coming
love
out
to.
here being like going to an acting school, like getting in like low budget student films where
I would
everyone's,
love to,
you
man.
know,
I
like
would
paying
love
like
to.
$100 just for catering, and you just
Totally.
work your way up the ranks and just
Sure.
be like, yo, I'm making this happen, and then just
I would love to. I would love to. A couple guys go, hey man, we love you, and but you know, we're trying to do this, and you never know who's the next.
exactly, yeah,
You know,
anything, yeah, director,
Tarantino, or,
right.
You never know who's the next. And he goes, man, I really appreciate it, man. You came out and you fucking acted, did nothing. You didn't ask for anything, and you hung out. And we had a ball and we laughed. And when the day comes and I'm finally in that position, I'm gonna pick you. And that's what happens. They do that. That's how it works. That's why you see repeatedly the same director use the same guys over and over
Yep.
and over, because they're likable and they get along well and they work. And I feel like I'm a likable guy. I don't think I'm some special whatever. I'm not like, oh, I'm not coming out of my dressing room unless whatever. I would, you know, I've worked opposite of Stephen Bauer. I've worked opposite of Michael Pare and you know, Lucas Till and again, these aren't, you know, but somebody felt confident enough to say, put him in. He's good. I got 20 years of camera time.
I was gonna say
I was
that.
just about to
yeah,
say
it's like
that.
you're
I'm
not
not
shy
gonna-
in front of a camera.
You can't
Call
make
it
that
what you
up.
want to call it, you know?
Yeah.
And in the most intimate capacity,
Yeah.
like with my asshole up in the fucking air and my balls or whatever. I mean, I'm being comical about it, but
If you can perform that, you can perform some lines.
I think, you know, and again, a lot of times in our world, in adult, they just rush us through the dialogue because that's not what's important. You know, let's get through that. We got some sex to have. And okay, I'm fine. I get it. But in mainstream, you know, you give you more time and you work on the delivery and let's try it again. And I love that stuff. I've always loved that stuff. I'm like, hey, Brad, you mind if we go again? Because I feel like I got a better one. And now that I got the vibe and I got the what do you call that?
Rhythm of
The
it. Or
rhythm.
something?
Yeah, you know, we've been we blocked it out. I come through the door. On the script is one thing. You get to the physical place and it's entirely different. You come out of the thing, blah, blah, blah. How are we shooting this? This, that, this, I know not to talk and walk or walk and talk, the same thing, right? I'm not going to make noise with my keys while I'm in dialogue. I know these things. I'm not going to shadow this guy because that doesn't work. So I know it's the same. I believe it's the same fundamentals that when you're on set and you're shooting and you're doing these things, it's the same thing. It ain't like I would show up on a set in a mainstream movie. We'd shoot the whole movie and then we go to the editing and he's like, he's not there. He's just didn't show up on camera like a vampire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck he's, it's the same thing.
Well, and I think today more than ever with the amount of independent film that's being shot, like with the technology and everything. And
anybody could put together.
Apple, Netflix, Amazon. It's not just the main studios anymore that in the past.
Studios
I think a lot more people that are producing independently would be way more open-minded. And anyone listening or watching, what I would say is you come with built-in audience too.
That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day,
they're going to come support you because they love you.
All I got to do is say, hey, guys, come see me over there. And they'll be like, let's do it. And again, if you want, I give you links to these things. Wolves, Gangsterland, Spartacus was an adult, but it looks like $1 million. Pirates 1 and 2, and all these other things. Again, I've proved myself over and over again in these capacities. It's just when the scene called for it, we took our clothes off and went the next step and had sex in context with the story and made it believable enough to where Richard Dreyfuss would tell me I'm a good actor. I don't know.
I think the tough part is the action movies traditionally have a higher budget and stuff. So it's like you're less likely to see a bunch of small independent action movies because they can't compete with that thrill and stuff. But like, would you be interested in other styles of just like psychological thrillers and stuff like that?
Anything that's challenging, I'd love to do it. Or even out of, they call that, what do they call that when it's you're cast against something?
Oh yeah. What is that?
Yeah.
Playing against your type or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if whoever said, hey, why don't you be a school teacher? I've been a school teacher plenty of times. You know what I mean? Or a doctor, or a fireman, or a policeman.
Plumber, electrician.
Again, I kid, but
no,
at the end of the day,
it's acting.
You cannot begrudge me the 20 years I've been in front of the camera. You can't.
And you shot actual films too. I think people need to know the difference between the adult stuff that's shot now, a lot of it, to what the stuff you were doing.
We do now.
You guys were shooting actual movies.
Yeah,
like
we shot on
films.
film actually with Vivid years ago in 2003, 4, 5 with Paul Thomas, and we actually shot on film.
And I think the Pirates movie, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the most successful adult movie of all time, or something like it's up there.
It was hailed the biggest, one of the biggest Hollywood adult productions ever. 1 and 2, Pirates 1 and Pirates 2, Stagnetti's Revenge. Stagnetti was my character. And again, it was hailed as such a big movie in Japan that the rated R version was played and families came out and watched it or whatever. It ended up in Blockbuster, a rated R version.
Wow.
I remember seeing it when the days of Blockbuster existed.
Yeah.
And again, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not asking for anything that's like outlandish. Like I want to direct, Leonardo DiCaprio and all these guys. Okay, that might be a little strange, but I just want to be one of the 20 bananas on the bunch.
You just want an opportunity.
I mean,
just a shot.
Why not? Or, put me in a capacity where even like a cameo, like in something that's that genre where the lead is whatever, and he's friends with him. Like, hey, how's it been? I don't know. It's all about it's timing. Yeah, I get it. It's if I could get connected with the the Seth Rogen and that camp, and them guys be like, dude, we know who you are, man.
You're totally going to be in our
cool
movie.
as shit. Bring them on. Why not? We'll have a laugh. You smoke? Yeah, come on. What do whatever. I don't know.
We're putting it out in the universe.
I mean?
Like because you
it
told
can't
you,
be,
yeah.
It's not going to make your movie flop. Like, oh, the fucking movie was great up until we saw him, and
Right.
we want our money back.
Right. If anything, it's going to bring more eyeballs and people purchasing
at the
movie.
end of the day, and someone has to have the cojones to be like, fuck it, I want him in the movie. I don't care who says what.
And Eric's right. Like once one person does it, then it's like when the first person ran the 4-minute mile. For years, no one had done it. But the second that person ran the 4-minute mile, everyone starts running the 4-minute mile.
There were some moments in our industry where we've had some crossover. James Dean did a movie called The Canyons with
Lindsay Lohan,
Lindsay
right?
Lohan.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit there. Sasha Grey, Entourage, The Girlfriend Experience, Steven Soderbergh. I kind of got in that mix in Entourage. I played Sasha Grey's ex-fiance. So when it's time for Hollywood to, I guess, fill those shoes, they look over our fence and go, let's have them come over. Sure, right?
Yeah,
And
when
then-
it makes sense for them.
When it
Yeah.
makes sense for them,
Yeah,
they dip
got it.
into that pool, right?
Right.
But the problem I see is, as long as if you're playing a stripper or a male porn star or whatever, and that's all you're doing, you're not accomplishing anything.
Yeah, you're just perpetuating
You're
the
just
whole thing.
perpetuating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh, let's get Tommy Gunn to play he's a lawyer, and he's going to be a lawyer, and he's in the court, and he's whatever, and you lose. People start looking at him in a different capacity because he's doing the gig, and he's handling the job, and he's convincing, and but you gotta give him, someone has to say, let's work with him. Let's have him, he's not gonna, again.
And I was listening to the last show you were on, one of the last shows you were on, and you said you are looking for an agent still, or you'd like to get representation.
I'd love to, but I had an episode once. I went to an agency. I can't remember it, but the story goes, and it was kind of whatever, disheartening. I got advised and referred to from somebody, and they said, go see this guy over at this such and such and such and such. It's usually two names, right?
Yeah.
Such and such and such and such agency. And I went there by a reference of this gentleman who was, I think, maybe represented by him, or his wife was, or something. And he said, so what's up? What are you trying to do? And I went in, had an appointment. I dressed nice, like I was going to court, I said, I'm trying to get representation. I'd like to pursue some acting, and I believe I can do it. And everything's like, acting is like a doctor. You're constantly practicing. You're never at a fucking, it's a constant thing, right? It's a craft and whatnot. Unless you're like Daniel Day-Lewis, you don't have to, right? But he said, so you're trying to be? I said, yeah, I'd like to do some acting. He goes, well, it's going to be tough with your background. And I said, what is my background? Like, did I shoot someone, or I'm like, he says, no, the porn thing. He says, yeah, it's going to be tough. He said, we typically vote by a committee, so it would be a board of people voting. He said, so I don't think it's going to happen. He says, but if you're ever shooting on a set and it's something I might like to come, you can invite me. I'd love to come check it out. It'd be cool. And I was like, inside, I was like, dick.
Right.
Like, I don't know, whatever. And I said, okay. And I just thought, that's strange. Okay, fine.
What year was this? What year was
This was, God, probably 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Anyway, it's someone has to just think to themselves, like, and I even said that on my buddy's thing. I said, if you're an agent and you're out there and you think you're good, and maybe you are, I don't know, take me on. I challenge you to take me on. If you're that good, then you should have no problem taking me on. I'm not asking you to, it's not like I'm some, I don't know, I fill in the blanks of someone that you just like couldn't represent because it would be like, I don't know.
And this brings a topic I wanted to bring up with you
Sure.
because I think it relates to what we're talking about. What's interesting to me, the stigma behind the adult film industry. You look around, ads everywhere. Everything's playing off sex.
Oh,
Everything. And even in the example you gave with the agent, like, oh, well, no, we could never do that. But hey, can I come on set with you? So it's like, what blows my mind is like, you've just been one that simply had the courage to just come out and do it. You're doing what everyone else fantasizes about and wishes they could do. But the second that it goes into their, well, no, I can't touch this. It's like,
yeah.
You see where I'm going with it? It's just like, it's so...
it's very hypocritical. It's,
hypocritical, yeah.
And everyone, there was a time, maybe late 90s, early 2000, or even earlier or something, that it was kind of considered chic to have some knowledge of the adult goings on in mainstream. Like, oh yeah, I know this director and that director. Oh really? It's kind of like having that porn friend, And I think I think it's still, but are they proud enough, or are they enough to be like who's going to invite me to the Oscars? Like, oh God, I'd love to have you come, but I couldn't. Don't stand too close. Can't have a picture with you. Maybe that would be bad, right? I don't know. Or is that?
And that's what I mean, because especially with social media now, Hollywood is selling sex constantly, even on these people's Instagram pages, and there's like. That's what I mean. It's like you guys are selling the exact thing you said you can't be associated with.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a whole other psychological wormhole, but
Sure.
I think someone should give you a shot. I think it's out there. I really do. I think there is someone that all it needs is that first person to say, "Hey, let's put him in this."
But they have to fight for that. I had a dear friend of mine who's in Canada, a gentleman, Paul Rapopsky, and I met him probably 15, 16, 17 years ago on a set of Digital Playground movie. I was working with the late Jesse Jane. All right, rest in peace. It's a tragic talk about. And there we were in this office movie, like an office setting movie type thing. And there we were in a position and cut. Okay, take 5. And in comes the director with this gentleman. And he says, hey, I want to introduce you. Hey, man, nice to meet you. And I give him my elbow, the elbow shake. Didn't want to offer my hand and from that day on, after the movie was over, he had stuck around. He said, you got a good look. I do this, that, and the other. And he works out of Canada. He was a stunt coordinator at the time. And since then, he's been a producer and working on a lot of projects. And he fought for me once in a movie to get me on board. And I appreciated it because it came out good and it worked out. And I wasn't the lead banana guy. I wasn't the top guy, but, I got in there and it and it did well. They say there's no small role in a movie, right? So he believes in me and he's like, I love the adult business. He says, I'll stick you in whatever I can. It's just, I got to fight sometimes because other people, oh, well, we can't, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, I long for the day that it's just not it's just not even, it's kind of like, how do I say? You hear Morgan Freeman, he goes, if we want to get over racism, you just got to stop talking about it. He says, right? Racism. Have you heard that before?
Something similar.
He says, you got to stop talking about it. And eventually we're just people all trying to do the stuff we are. not blue or purple or whatever colors and that, whatever. But if it's constantly, oh, well, he's in porn or he does this, then we'll never get over it. How about he's an actor? He's been doing it for 20 years. In fact, why don't he consult us on how to do a sex scene? He could be a consultant on that. Maybe, right? I mean, I've directed them. I've been in them. I've, been directed to be, or whatever. Anyway.
That's a good point too, because I mean, even now with the content that's out and the sex scenes they show they go pretty much. They go pretty far.
That's what Hollywood does. I think they see how far they can push it to get as close as to what we do in order to get as more edgier than the last production. And then we as the adult industry, we try to get our production value so high up that it looks like mainstream. Wow, it's so I don't know. Again, that was my path. That was my choice. That was my thing. My ultimate goal was to go the adult movie way, to get to the mainstream world, to be welcomed because I did so well in adult and created enough of a name where they said, yes, we want you to be, because it's people coming to see you and you got a built-in fan base, 20 years, internationally from all these media, from, the things that you've appeared in.
But not just in the United, you're globally recognized.
Exactly. Totally.
It's not just like a little.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, people in LA no, like
and then,
people all around.
Like I said, put me where it's fitting.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying I'm going to play the male porn star in this or the stripper guy in that or the gigolo in this. That's not what I'm saying. But I could be one of any 5 bad guys in a mob movie or a Fast and the Furious movie or a parachuting out and landing with a thing and grenade and kicking the door. I mean, let's not kid each other.
Wasn't Ron Jeremy in some movies? There's a big movie. He was like the bad guy. What am I thinking of? I thought he was in
something Saints.
I'm Boondock Saints. Maybe
Saints.
I'm the one that's supposed to be looking this up.
And again, he's done well for himself in that capacity, but his reign is over. It's unfortunate.
So that was a question I had for you. If these when these opportunities start to open up in film, are you willing to?
Yeah, please. I'm doing that anyway. I'm slowly. Yeah. It's just it's one of those things that it's naturally diminishing returns for me right now, because the business has changed in a lot of capacities, where the studios just aren't producing a lot of content, and when they are, the caliber and the nature of them is by no means what I'm used to. I come from what they call feature world. I was considered a feature guy. You got feature, which is storyline, script, dialogue, wardrobe, character-driven movies. And then you got gonzo, which is a film. It's like a film style where it's just boy meets girl and they're off to the races. And you shoot it in this gonzo capacity where it's just sex and there is no why, how we got there, But yeah, I mean, I've written 2 scripts. I'm not a writer, but I pretty much got the story down and worked with a script writer. And now we got it in script format. And I had that movie, like I said, just specifically for Stallone that I still have. I'd love to see. If you're out there, make the movie. I don't want any money for it. Let all the money go to the St. Jude's Foundation, because that's the storyline is based upon a kid that's dying from being terminal in the movie. So, I don't know. And then another movie that I wrote that we're trying to work on, my friend in Canada, him and myself. And I got other ideas too. And again, it's all just human stuff. I'm a human being at the end of the day. You relate and you can encourage and inspire and motivate and whatnot and stuff. And there's a lot, how do I say? You can't tell me that, like you said, it's hypocritical, right? These actors and these actresses or whatnot in the mainstream world, they know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
They're, when they get excited and they want to pop in a movie and get the fucking, get the blood flowing and get some, what do they watch? I'm wondering, what do they watch?
Yeah.
Because God forbid you could watch that, that would be.
Obviously people are watching.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Are they that? Oh, we could never. We watch higher porn. Like we watch more. Is there such a thing? I don't know. I mean, or maybe there. I don't know. I don't know. That's what.
Well, and like it has, and this has been such an amazing, like you sharing everything.
Yeah,
you are, 'cause you're an artist. You are an artist. You're creative. You're inspirational. You have big vision. I mean, you just telling your story alone, like just hearing your evolution.
Sure. And
everything.
it's still in the process.
And it's still happening. And that's what I'm actually excited for you, because I think I can see this happening for you. It's just going to take that one person, like you say, let's do it. Like, yeah, come play this, whatever role.
And give me
you tell your people like, hey, come watch me in this.
Sure.
And then they're going to look at him like, oh, Tommy brings a lot of fans, and he actually did a really good job. Like,
I mean, what the fuck, Don't set me up to fail. Like, make it look bad. Like, what the fuck is that?
So
I don't know.
So do you have a question, Eric?
No, it just makes me think of like The Rock. He had to leave wrestling for a hot minute to kind of and then like Matthew McConaughey was always in the rom-coms, and he's like, I had to take whatever X amount of years like off to let people kind of forget my persona, and then I came back. It's like anytime anyone take any of this with a grain of salt,
sure, please.
But anytime anyone brings up the adult background, that's just like a punch. Like Rock, you can take some punches, man.
Sure.
And it's like $1 million to one shot, dude. Like that's all his movie was. That's what his life was. Like that's why you're here. Like honestly, it's kind of exciting. It's like, yo, I'm gonna make this happen. I will climb the steps to make it happen. Like I'll do like the small films, then I'll make my own short films or whatever it is you do and make your way. Like it absolutely is possible. Like you said, you just need a trailblazer, and that could be you.
Yeah, and there's an accomplice in that, like an agent that says, you know what, I see that, and I want to be that guy. Like, yeah, you're the guy who introduced Tommy Gunn to the mainstream world. Yeah, that's right. And people, what? Get out of here. Yeah, I did that.
A Brad, like Brad was for you earlier.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's happened multiple times, I'm sure already. Not from a porn guy trying to become and do whatever, but in a capacity where a guy says, this cat just needs a little level up. He needs here's the door. We've all gotten that at some point from someone. I'm sure if you look, Stallone will say, yeah, I got it from whoever, and I gave it to this person, and that person got it from this person. Or if you do some research, if you ask any of these big stars, actors, directors, they'll say, yeah, my person was that person.
When like you and I were talking earlier on the phone earlier, I think a lot of misconception people have to it. Like it is a job when you work in the adult industry, and you have 20-year track record of showing up on time, and even communicating with you for this, you're so spot on and stellar, and you arrived super early, and it's just like that matters like on film sets. And Eric does a lot of film making himself over here. It's like, I mean, how important is it for people to be on time?
On time and be enjoyable,
Absolutely.
Like you were probably, I think you showed up today about a half hour early. I don't know if we've had one guest show up a half hour early yet. Maybe one out of, I've been on how many, 40 episodes, close to 40 episodes or something.
Sure.
And like, just like little things like that. 'Cause they add up, because time is money, especially in the film industry.
Totally.
So to have someone that is a professional already, like that is a value of itself.
I've been on a number of sets, mainstream, although small or this or whatever, or in a small capacity or whatnot. And I've managed to kind of overhear a few things like, hey, we need such and such. Could you go rally up such and such? And they're like, he's in the thing. He won't come out. He's got these fucking blah, 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 and what the fuck, and this and that. And I'm going, I don't know how that works. Like, at one point they wanted that, right? And now that they're there, they don't want it. They don't want it now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or they're like, another time I worked with a gentleman, and he had shown some interest. He had shown some concern. He says, "Come here." Not to me. He gets the director. He goes, "Who am I acting with? Who's this guy?" "Oh, that's such and such." "Oh, yeah. Is he going to like know the material?" And I knew it. In fact, he didn't. But he was concerned that I wasn't on my game and study the material. This is the, that's the, and I take it all tremendously serious. And like you've said, you don't get, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but you don't attain and you don't get to a place of my success or whatnot by being a fucking failure. And is he going to show it? Nobody's going to tolerate that.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And I was I think it was at AVN's actually one year. I was there at a male performer panel. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget one said, he goes, "There's a reason why you see the same males in every scene most of the time."
Sure,
Because
they're the
as a
ones.
male, especially, it's even harder.
Yeah,
No pun intended.
totally.
but that just mixed with your diligence and to me, like just talking to you, you want it. Like you're hungry.
I want it.
You
and
want
I want
it.
the opportunity, and I'll do the homework, and I'll put in the work, and I'll put in the, and all that. I'm excited for it.
No, I feel it, man. Like I
Yeah.
feel something big's
Yeah,
happening.
I'm telling you, I'm like, oh,
I can feel the energy.
That is, that was the plan, and it has been that all along. And I just need somebody to say, give them the, here's, and not, again, want me to do well and provide me the whatever to do well, and not set me up to be like, for it to be a bomb and go, ha, get him, now kick him out, you know what I mean?
I don't think anyone's going to invest
There's
money.
those people too that
Yeah.
want to see you do bad.
Yeah.
Well, there are, but I don't think those are the people that be making the movies because
Sure.
then they're going to
Yeah,
look like a
then they're
dipshit.
of course, yeah, that's bad,
So
yeah.
it's like I think anybody that puts you in something, they're going to be there. They want you to succeed and stuff. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited, man.
I'm excited for you.
I just want to give me the, let me swing the bat. Second time, here I am. Let me swing the bat.
Well, and even producing your own content, I mean, I'm sure people that will, hey, I'll be in your movie or I'll
Yeah,
come do this.
sure.
I mean, people start see you doing that over there too. They're like, wow, this guy's like serious.
And that's what that was my biggest goal. I said I wanted to take the most difficult route to the top. I mean, I'm not, to where I'm trying to go, and have people go, wait, you stacked the odds up even so much. Yeah, I did that on purpose, so that the reward was even, wow, you did what, So, who
Well,
knows?
you know what? Even if it wasn't by design or whatever, like is what it is, and nothing's ever done. You're never like left for dead. Like it's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Like shit, this could be a movie of itself. Just
Sure.
you getting into it. I mean, that'd be pretty interesting. You can make a feature film easily, or even
Documentary.
but
About
like,
the
yeah,
struggles of this guy trying to do those things.
Yeah.
And the constant, well, I wish, this or that. And you're like,
yeah. Heard it a million times, man. I'm not worried about it. Like I'm doing this.
Sure,
like this is
sure.
happening.
And that's what's
Yeah.
crazy is like you said, you can go walk out on the street out here and be like, Tommy Gunn, can I get a
Dude,
photo?
give
Can
me
I
a
do this?
picture, man.
And
You're
then
my
I was like,
fucking
oh,
hero.
I just want a small role in this. I'm like, oh yeah, no, sorry, we can't do it. It makes
I know.
no sense.
It doesn't. I scratch my head. Dude, I'm in Times Square or on Broadway just 2 days ago. Literally, Broadway, and it's New York City. And I got one eye where I'm going, and I'm looking at other stuff, and I'm seeing it. And dudes are like,
Of course.
and then I'm fucking walking, and then I hear legend. And I go, literally.
Damn straight. That's what you said. Yeah.
And then I go, and then you'll see another cat come up. Dude, Tommy Gunn, what are you doing in Broadway, dude? What the? Love you, man. Fucking keep up the good work or whatever. And the girl's with is like, she's just going, how? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean,
You know what?
and it's
I love
anywhere I go.
Yeah, and I love about this too because You have stardom. You know what it's like for people. I would argue you probably get approached more than a lot of people in Hollywood do out here. Like, living out here, like you see someone at the grocery store once in a while.
I saw Matt Dillon at the fucking, what was it called? Boardroom in Manhattan 2 days ago. Boardroom. He was right there. Matt Dillon from, What About Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
Matt
about,
Dillon.
or something about Mary or something like
right. And I was with Dean and Kelly, and they're like, we think we know. I'm like trying to not look, but look, And it was him, Matt Dillon. Yeah.
And what's funny is he very well could have been doing the same thing. Like, I think I know those guys.
I'll tell you, I had a story one time. I got a number of stories. One of them, I was in Burbank Airport, very small and
I love
intimate,
Burbank
great
Airport,
and I'm waiting for my flight, and I look across the gangway or whatever, and I see somebody, and I'm like, damn, I know a face when I see it. I have that thing. I'm like, let me go walking over. So I start walking over, and as I'm getting closer, I get to about here. And Eric, right? Eric?
Yeah.
And I walk up and I point and I go, The Crow. And Michael Wincott which was in The Crow, the long hair, who kills Brandon at the end, or however, he says pirates. And I go, I said, you watch Pirates? What are you watching that stuff for? He goes, man, fucking Tommy Gunn. I'm like, Michael Wincott, unbelievable. I said, hey, enjoy your flight. Get where you got to go safe. What a neat episode. He goes, wow. And he's got that voice, man, a real deep voice. It's just unbelievable.
And that's what I mean. Like you've had, what that feels like. So to me, you're coming for a more pure place. And I would argue some people that say they want it out here in Hollywood, because there's a lot of people that come here and think, oh, I'm going to come and be a famous celebrity and star, and it's chewed up, spit out. Where you're just like, well, I already know what that. I want to act. Like, I want to be in movies.
Really want to get the opportunity and work with the director and say, look, man, I want to be good at this.
Right.
In fact, give me what you can way ahead of time. And if you can set me up with somebody, I'd love to work with them and really get
like
on
a coach, like an acting
please.
coach, or
I
a school
walk on
or
set
something.
and fucking just it be like and just happen, and not even try, or just be. I don't want to show up on set and be like, well, maybe there's actors that do that and they didn't do their homework or whatever they call that, because maybe I don't know. Again, it's still this challenge that I definitely want to try to achieve.
Well, I think you've already accomplished a lot of challenges. I mean, from your injury to stepping on to be an adult male dancer, and then to the adult film industry,
beating drugs and
beating drugs. Exactly.
Oh my God.
What's one more big? One
and
more.
And let me tell you, there's also I'm a survivor of suicide. I didn't try it and fail, but a family member of mine did it, and I discovered them. And that's a pretty heavy moment of just like shock of what the, So I live with that all the time, and it's a real thing, So it's a constant, like I'm constantly from that, and then the injury, and then the drugs. There's been a number of things that kind of gotten me in like this heightened awareness of, what's coming next, like what horrible things are going to happen. And I want to think like that, because what kind of life is that, right? But
well, ultimately, a lot of actors, not necessarily, I won't want to say like tap into it by like replaying it, but they, they have that emotional life because of the life experience. So what those, that feels like in your gut.
Totally.
So it's like now, so you can relate to the character that just lost their son and stuff like that, because you can
use those things. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would love, like I said, I've actually taken some acting classes with Steven Snyder and Leo Rossi over here on Santa Monica Boulevard. There's an acting workshop and things, and we put up scenes in front of them. And this was, God, 10, 15 years ago. And I loved it. I had a great time. And in fact, one day we got assignment to do a scene together, and I had a scene partner, and he and I teamed up. And Steven said, look, go to each other's houses and work on the scene. And one day you go to the other guy's house and you work on the scene. And then one day this guy came to my house. And while I was there in my particular house at the time, I had this little wall and it had a few plaques and a couple of awards kind of off to the side. And I thought, do I hide these or do I leave them out? Because this gentleman's coming over. I said, I'm just going to leave them. Right. So we came over. He came over. We did the thing. We spent some time. And on his way out, he walked past and go, wow. He's like, wow, look at these. He says, what are these? I said, well, read them. He's like, AVN. I said, I'm an actor in the adult in the world. And these are some awards I've. He's like, wow, unbelievable. And I said, can we not tell anyone, if you don't mind? He goes, yeah, sure. I said, I want to be an actor at the studio. I don't want to be top the gun. I don't want, you know what I mean? I said, when it's time, I'll tell Steven. If you don't mind, I want to tell him myself. He goes, yeah, fair enough. I said, thanks. I appreciate your, you know. So we went back to class, and then one day it was time, and I said, Steve, would you mind if I stayed after class? I want to have a conversation with you. He's like, yeah, sure. What's going on? Everyone left, and I went and I said, look, I got something I got to tell you. And he says, I knew the minute you walked in. But you're not him. You're an actor. And that's why I didn't say anything. And I said, good, because that's what I want. And he says, there's nothing to worry about. You're in a good place here. Because I didn't want to be, you know, but he said, I knew the minute you walked in. Okay. You know, I'm an adult. I knew the minute I saw you. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was
it.
awesome. That's like
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
He goes, you're good, man. He says, I said, well, I want to be good. I don't want to be looked at, you know, with those eyes or what. I want to be, you know.
Well, like Eric said too, I mean, just your experience that you have to pull from. And someone once told me too, the beauty of acting is you're always working on it because it's your humanity.
Exactly.
Your life experience is building now. The timing, we talk timing. Like I feel some like, oh, he's already made it to this. I think the even bigger things are about to happen for you that you never even could have guessed.
It's funny you say that because I was literally just with a gentleman, Dean, in New York, and this young lady, Kelly, good friends of mine. Dean's, I've known him for quite a while, but only recently have we gotten like bonding. And he come to New York. I want you to come and visit. And we celebrated his birthday. And he had that same conversation with me. I sat in his living room and talked to him about all different things. And I said, I feel like I'm in the 11th hour though, Dean. And he goes, no. He says, I think you got even more bigger shit coming down the pipeline. I'm like, really? He says, yeah, I'm telling you. He says, your energy is just unbelievable, and your story. And I told him about all these things and whatnot, and he knows. And he says, just what you said. And I was like, I hope so.
We're around a lot of actors constantly and everything, and everyone has their own ambitions and whatnot. But like you specifically have this energy and hunger for it.
I don't think very highly of myself, unfortunately. And maybe that's bad or something. Some people say you got to think better. You're a little hard on yourself, but I'm sure there's actors out there who think they're just, gift to the world or whatever.
I think you'd be surprised. A lot of actors are actually just as insecure.
Good,
so you're actually in good company. Good. Trust me.
Because I've seen a couple that are like, this guy or this woman or whatever. Maybe it's just
that's their cover up. That's how that's their cover up because they ultimately are feeling real insecure. Yeah. So they're like trying to hype themselves. They might not be conscious of it, but I truly believe that, man. Okay, I've been around here like 6 years. I've seen enough actors. you're not. Yeah,
Okay.
you're in the majority, man.
I just, like I said, I want them to know, hey man, I'm with you. I'm on your side. I'm okay. I did that, but you know,
Well, and I think,
I'm trying to just
yeah.
assimilate and be, you know.
And I think, in all fairness to all the actors too, there's some actors that we've met, and I mean they're beyond good, like incredible good.
Phenomenally.
They may never get the shot either, and that's what the crazy thing about
Yeah.
Hollywood is you have to have talent, but it's also business. So that's why I'm saying with your particular path, you have a type, you have a following, there's certain things that, because it is a money making business for these people.
I mean,
at the end of the day,
right?
it's like, what are you bringing to the table for them too?
Sure,
So
sure.
it's like this perfect storm of things with acting.
You know,
a lot of times.
I haven't been trying literally because I've just been so disheartened from just the course of events and things that took place, and I guess I've convinced myself that that people have said, "Oh, it's going to be difficult." And okay, I agreed. I guess I believed it.
Hmm.
Right.
Well, and that's one theme on this podcast as of late. I just turned the magical 37,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, now we're officially the late 30s, and I had lost some of the fire for some of the things
Yeah.
but I'm like, you know what? Screw that. I'm gonna start hitting the gym again harder than I've ever hit it. Like, and it is incredible the transformation
Sure,
that happens.
sure.
You know what? Yeah, I think I'm eating healthy. I can cut those portions back a little bit. Let's increase that protein.
Yeah.
You start just getting sharper again. You realize, like, oh, age is just a number. It's like I was all in my head.
I know.
And it's like, even with what we're doing with this, it's like, let's just do it. It's a gift to be here and to be alive and to have
It totally
capabilities.
is, absolutely.
And it's like, man, if you can do it, let's make it happen.
We get to do it.
We
Not
get
we
to
have
do it.
do it. Oh, I got to drive to whatever, or I got to do that. You know.
Yeah. All this is going in the book, right? Like,
Please, yeah, absolutely.
How's that coming along? How's that?
I'll tell you, it's been quite the journey because the difficulty that I have with the book is that I got to drum up these things again and be real specific and kind of, and some of them are really hard. And I'm like, oh, I gotta talk about that again. You know what I mean? So I'm not afraid to, or I don't want to. It's just that's what I've been feeling. I'm like, wow, it's quite the task. Because now, I have a writer guy friend of mine who's basically said, okay, I'm recording, let's go. And he's another state, different, and we're on WhatsApp or whatever. And we do a 2 or 3 hour session and just start. I was like, I'll start at the beginning. Why not? Right? That's a good place. So we've done about 30 of those.
Wow.
And he's like, I got so much stuff. I said, okay. He says, I got to start transcribing it. And now we're chapters, and those chapters, let's talk about that. And let's talk. So it's been interesting. I don't expect to be rich by any stretch of it. And that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to just it's kind of therapeutic, being able to get it off my chest and talk about the way I felt and what I experienced in those things. And so that's exciting. So it's kind of been a bit of and then with the podcasts that I'm doing, I'm enjoying those because it's important to be able to, I look at it like it's an opportunity to convey and explain and express and take in and a lot of those different things,
Let people get to know you on a deeper level.
Sure. And additionally, I guess in some way it's kind of like, I don't want to say practice, but do something. You do it enough, and you're talking, and you're this or you're that, and you're expressing yourself versus not. Just not, staying
That's
home.
what good actors do. They're able to open themselves up and be
Yeah,
movable and stuff like that.
Sure,
Yeah, man.
sure.
I think you're laying
gotta-
the tracks, brother.
Yeah. It's kind of like, if you want to juggle, you got to juggle, right? You got to do it. So if you want to, be in front of the camera, be in front of the camera even more, right?
Yeah. And
in more ways and different. and have conversations and, be able to express yourself in this way or,
And you never know who may see it, whether it's this one or
Yeah,
some other
sure,
other
sure.
podcasts you have done. Like one person goes, you know what? That's pretty interesting what he just said about me. I do know this agent, or my buddy is making this film. Maybe I should tell him about that.
Yeah,
You just
again,
never
I'd
know
love
where
to-
things, especially
I
that
mean-
is the beauty of the internet, is wow,
Yeah.
can things spread quickly
Sure,
and
sure.
people discover things that they never
Totally.
knew.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
this
exciting.
this has been a gift.
Good, good.
This is
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk for 10 hours.
That's true. It's true. It really is. Yeah.
Well, when you do release the book and have it, maybe that'd be
Yeah.
and you're coming back
It would be great. I would
through LA.
love
Is
that.
there anything else that you want to talk about personally? Anything that's been on your mind, or anything you have coming up, or any topic? I'm
Just,
open to anything.
I guess, just make again touch on the fact that throughout on a daily, I wonder to myself, fuck, and I'm sure everyone is, what am I going to do? How am I going to, I'm trying to, you with these new social medias, Instagram and whatnot, this whole manifesting stuff. You got to, and I'm like, all right, I'll give this a try.
Yeah.
Start manifesting stuff and saying these things and actually believe it, and so I've been trying to do that. So I fight a bit of some questionable types of thoughts. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. Do we all? I mean, right? We're wondering. The state of the world's crazy. I can't even believe people are lighting themselves on fire. It's like, wait, what?
I was at the gym when I saw that
Yeah.
headline, and I'm just like, you got it.
I mean,
The world's going mad. So
it really is. I mean, and it's a shame. Can't even imagine being driven to that type of mindset. Like, I'm going to do this, or
When it really brings the importance too of you have to take care of yourself too in your mind, because
Yeah.
the media and all that it's just constant. I was watching the news I was somewhere where the news was being presented. I don't have cable, but where I was at, they did. The news for the first 15 minutes will make you not want to go outside your door.
Yeah, it really is.
It is just negative,
Unsettling.
negative,
It's
negative,
disheartening.
negative. And
It's
I'm like,
just-
you just can't ingest that. You got to, I want to be aware of what's going on, but you got to be the best version of yourself and put out positivity, because
Sure.
that the more that you're putting out positivity,
Sure.
the more it's going to affect other people, and they'll.
Yeah,
start
I like to
being
try and do that. Be kind to people and just for no reason do something nice and just motivate, inspire, encourage, listen. Just be, sit with someone. You
positive.
don't have to talk.
Yeah.
Someone's like, I remember when I went through that episode, I told you I experienced that. I just wanted to be in a room with someone. Didn't have to say nothing. But when I was alone, by any stretch, just by being alone in those times just after that, month, week, month, whatever. I just wanted to be around people and whatever. When you got alone, and that's it. Even like today, present day. I heard somebody say, and I kind of stole their. Like, my mind is like a bad neighborhood. I don't like being in it alone. Because when we get alone, that's what we do, right? We're by ourselves. We start, what's this? What's that? Whatever, self, our thoughts are important. You try to, you start, I'm going to go that direction. Let's not do that. Let's self-talk is important, even if it's jokingly, like, you dummy. No, don't do that. Your body doesn't know you're kidding. You're self-hearing that, right? Saying, you dummy, you why'd you do, can't do that. I know it sounds, and these are just things, these are not my, these are things that I hear, and I like that. I'm going to remember that, pass that on, or don't do this, and yeah, do that. So, give kindness and joy and happiness, and hopefully that'll be you'll attract that as well. As can't walk around all pissed off. This doesn't do anything for you. Harboring hate and resentment and enviness and jealousy and whatever, that's not good either. And don't try to be better than anyone else. Try to be better than yourself yesterday. Like, I want to be better than myself yesterday, right? When you look at yourself and be like, I want to be better than that person, I think I feel like that robbed your energy from, trying to be better than yourself,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you're focusing on the things that you don't have instead
Yeah.
of the things that you do. And you're entirely right with it. The thoughts are underneath everything. So if you're having these crappy thoughts, and if you're actually having crappy feelings, it's probably good to take a second. Like, okay, what am I thinking here? Like, what's stemming these feelings? Because most likely you are doing it to yourself. Like, I'm a big believer of that myself. Yeah.
Totally. So, and again, up till now, I've never been here before. Like, I've never been alive at this point. I'll be 57 in the fucking, never imagine even getting to that point. It's unbelievable.
Happy
And
birthday.
I can't wait. Thank you. May 13th. It's
Yeah.
crazy. May 13th. Stevie Wonder, May 13th. Who else? Stephen Colbert, May 13th. He mentioned me on his television on television one day.
Really?
He
He's doing like celebrity
if you look it
birthdays or
up-
something.
No, if you look it up, it's on a YouTube. You can find it. He's talking about Mayor Giuliani and Stormy Daniels, and he says something like, Mayor Giuliani says, "Yeah, I never even watched porn. Don't even know what, And so Stephen goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like you don't know the big blockbuster movie Pirates with Tommy Gunn as the lead." And he says it as Captain Randall Thrust. And he says it, and my friend calls me like, "Dude, you just got mentioned on Colbert." It was great. It was comical. It was funny. I appeared on Sopranos in one of the episodes. There's an episode where the guy is in the in an adult store, and on the TV is a film that I was in. You don't see any nudity or anything, but there I am, and my friend calls me, "Hey man, I just saw you in the Sopranos." It's crazy.
Uh,
It's been a
it's been a
an
ride.
interesting ride,
It's been a ride.
and everything's great, and I'm blessed. I'm literally blessed with the response from people, men, women. I love it. I'm grateful. I a lot of times I'm like, I'm very modest, humble. I'm like, oh, I'll listen and hear somebody compliment me, and I'll be like, I'm thank you. I gotta try to learn to be more, whatever, give myself a little more credit and be a little more, you're doing good, be proud, because I'm often like, nah, people go, you should be hard on yourself. Where that comes from, I don't know, right? Where do we get those things?
I mean, honestly,
know?
my belief is that a lot of it happens at like a young age, and then
Yeah.
like it gets locked in there, and
Sure.
it's just hidden in plain sight, so
Sure,
you don't
sure.
see it, and then it's just your habit.
Yeah.
And then your friends sometimes can see things in you that you just don't see in
Yeah,
yourself, and then
right.
like you're like, oh shoot, maybe I should listen to them. Like maybe I am being
Sure.
tough, but it's so hard to break those habits. Like
Right.
that's
You're like,
that might be the whole fight of life right there. Like
Yeah.
your soul's purpose, of like learning to truly love yourself or whatever,
yeah.
and. Yeah, man, you're not alone at all.
And you're right about the mind and words. And I've caught myself lately, and we've had these conversations.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't.
because you get caught in that negative talk, and you're like, oh well, this.
Yeah, I'm such a fucking this, that, and the other.
And that's
You're
what
like,
that's why I
stop.
had to cut out a lot of news and stuff, because it puts you in that mode. It's
you
like,
kinda-
oh, the world's going to shit. Like, it's
Yeah,
like,
fucking, right.
yeah. But then it's like, no, I get to decide. And the morning's been a time for me to really,
Yeah.
if I'm going to journal or meditate or whatever, it's like, no, we're putting positive energy out today.
Just ain't gonna let it.
Yeah, no, we're not
Not-
playing
we're not-
this game.
yeah.
This is my mind.
Self-talk is so important.
Yeah, and the mind can be your greatest friend or your biggest
Worst-
enemy.
Yeah, unbelievable. So that's what this is. It's this,
Yeah,
on a daily basis, right?
yeah, just
You know?
ping pong.
And I think I said this to it with Marcus. People say, "Oh, it's not the destination; it's the journey." And I go, "Okay." But then I recently heard it's neither. It's not the destination or the journey. It's the company
I remember,
that.
yes.
Because
Yeah.
I could be in the shittiest place and went through the fucking most horrific way to get there. But if I was with people that I was like, it's not too bad. I'm grateful to be, you can.
Hell of a ride, I'm happy to have
we're
my
all
homie-
in
yeah.
this together
Yeah.
type of thing. I love
Right?
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not the journey or the destination. It's the company, man. That's so important. And things are things, whatever. I bought a thing and I got this thing. And you can't love something that doesn't love you back. What the fuck are we doing, right? But we do it. Oh, I love my car. I love my thing. I love my that. The real love you get is from something or some person or and memories. Hopefully, if we're blessed to have them as we get older, if we don't get Alzheimer's or dementia or none of those things, then we're robbed of our memories, the ones we had with great people. That's all we have is our memories, right? Make those. Nobody has a hearse with a trailer hitch on it,
nope.
pulling the trailer to the grave.
I never heard that, but I like that.
It's
You know
so
what I
true.
mean?
And society has conditioned so many of
You
us.
got to have this and the
Gotta have
Joneses.
this,
You got
gotta-
to,
yes.
the Joneses,
And then you realize that there is no Jones. Like because they just lead you to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, then you're dead. Like
Yeah.
so you really
We're
do have
all
to-
on different paths to the same place in the ground.
Mm.
Yeah,
Not
but
one-
but the positive spin on that is like we don't know what that could be. Like, that could be such a beautiful thing, Like
course.
nobody knows. That's the beauty
Yeah,
there.
it
It's
could be
like
just like,
or who? Yeah, like
What?
what kind of knowledge you get,
know?
or like what
you
if-
ascend to the next.
Yeah, like what?
It's like a game. Oh, I'm going to the next level.
Yeah,
I mean, really, we're just vessels.
sure.
Again, have you read the book The Alchemist, or have you heard of The Alchemist?
I'm terrible with reading.
Okay.
I can do it, obviously, but I have like some of the worst attention span. I'm like, I'll be reading and I'll be like thinking about something else. I'm like, fuck, I'm just gonna keep reading. But it's The Alchemist.
Well,
Tell me about it.
your journey. Well, basically, to sum it up, he goes on this journey to find his treasure, and he goes through things that were unexpected. And in one thing, he ends up working in a glass shop for a year, and he's like, "Why am I?" Because he ran out of money, so he had to make money
Yeah,
to keep
sure.
traveling. And then he gets to the place where he thought the treasure was going to be, and when he gets there, spoiler alert.
Okay.
He realizes, oh, this isn't the treasure, but he realized where the real treasure was. I even get goosebumps
Sure.
saying it.
And the
'Cause-
treasure was.
So the point is, you don't know what the thing you're doing, where it's leading you, but there's a purpose for it. It's leading you to the next thing, and that's why I've enjoyed and really appreciated you
yeah.
really telling us the full journey. Because I know the next thing, becoming an adult film star and all that. That's just a chapter.
That was
and there
just
were
a-
other chapters
Yeah,
before that
oh,
chapter.
entirely.
Many chapters before that. And the next chapter, Hollywood action star, it's like it's there. Like it's happening for you.
Yeah.
So
I love the thought of someday being able to help people in whatever capacity. I don't know if it's, you hear stories like Keanu Reeves. I hear he funds like a children's hospital or something.
I know he's done tons of charity work for sure.
Like, he's just an amazing example of like what I would like to be like.
Yeah,
You know,
he's that
like-
type of guy. Yeah.
And again, truth be told, you don't have to be rich to help anyone. I know that because it's just a door or, hey, what's wrong? Or tell me, or let me help you. Like, I feel like if you can help someone, it's really within your power to do it. I'm not saying you run out and, next thing you know, you forgot about your own self. Of course, you can't do that, but help someone, whether it's like it was funny the other day. Me and Kelly were walking down the street and there's a guy on a scooter and it's kind of drizzling rain and there's a puddle and he's fumbling with his food and all of a sudden he drops all of it into this puddle. And my knee-jerk reaction was to go, oh my God, and I run over there and we help him get his stuff and we clean it off. I'm sticking my hands in a dirty puddle in New York. Are you okay? He's like, man, wow, unbelievable, thanks. I'm like, take your time, get yourself together before you go driving off. Are you good? Yeah, thanks. And next thing you know, I'm like, okay, and we're walking, and I'm like, wow. I just helped that guy without even It was just a reflex. When I could have watched 10, 20 people just go and walk past the guy. Right? That's what you would see, right? People. And that's a small thing and whatever.
But that small thing may have inspired him later that day to help someone in that same way that he helped
I don't
you.
know.
That's a trickle effect.
I just like, I don't know. I enjoy, maybe I do it. I don't want to help somebody. Well, I don't know how this sounds, but I enjoy how I feel when I help someone. Is that bad?
No.
Is that like, oh, you're selfish? You're helping someone
No,
because it makes you feel good.
Man, when you think about it, a lot of people want to do good so they go to heaven and things like that. It's too. I mean, is that selfish to want to go to heaven?
Right.
It's like, I think there's just something innately positive and like loving that like we identify with like deep in that you just want to like share that, and it just makes you feel good, and you're like, okay, like I'm in, like I'm present right now, I'm locked in with life, and like I'm not thinking about all the other crap that in my head. But I think it is like an innate thing that I think everybody has, and to some capacity, like somewhere in their heart, or so to speak.
It's good. It's good feelings. It's good. I love to just anonymously, hey honey, look at this in the mail. The house was paid off. How did that even happen? I'm just, you heard about some struggling or something, whatever, medical things or something. And again, you really don't have to, to have those abilities, I guess just help comes in many forms. It doesn't have to be, financially. It could be, it's so many. And I just feel, for whatever reason, I feel motivated to do it. I enjoy it. I like to be a nice word, a smile, a gesture, a thing. Man, because you feel good. I like how I feel doing it. I enjoy it.
Sure beats the alternative.
Being some grumpy fuck.
Whatever. And we all have those moments too. Get off my yard, like yelling at, like.
Yeah. Totally.
Well.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Good. I had a wonderful time.
No,
Sam.
thank you. Great. No, thank you so much for coming on, being so thorough with telling your story. I think it's important for people tuning in to hear the full journey, and I'm sure there's a lot more.
A snippet. It's a snippet.
They'll have to get the book, right?
Hey, even the book's a snippet.
Exactly.
Maybe there'll be a follow-up that says, but I'd love to have an opportunity. That's really it. In multiple capacities, over this way or that way, and to get and get the enjoyment out of that too, because there's no better feeling than doing good at something. Like, oh, I did good at that. I like that, right?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people may already know where to find you, but if and I'll give you the last word again here, but if people want to find you, where's the best place to go, social media wise?
Well, I do have the Instagram, and again, I love the social media to some degree, but sometimes I dread it. Like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be a day when people say, "Now, make sure you put how many followers I had on my tombstone." Is that important? You know what I mean?
Right.
Make sure that ends up there. You can find me on Instagram, THEE, the Tommy Gunn, TOMMYGUNN. Twitter's TOMMYGUNNXXX. Twitter's a little more of a Wild West.
Yeah, Twitter's insane. Like,
it really is. It's like a garbage. It's like a dumpster fire.
I go on Twitter. I'm like, oh my God.
Wait, what? You got to be careful who you even open it up on. Like, what? Sometimes I'm ashamed.
Well, and actually, you're the first person to bring that up, but I don't think you're far off. There will be people in these generations that will want their follower count on there too.
Right?
They'll want it to be digital too, so if it goes up or down.
It's constantly changing. But
And before the parting moment, you have a dog, right?
I do. His name is Storm. He's an interesting fella. He's a retired explosive detective dog that was furloughed because of COVID. And just at the moment, back then, was a friend of mine she's a she's a great mom and struggling, and she's just trying to do her best. And she ended up with this dog because of a marriage that kind of wasn't working out. And she said, hey, you know, I have this dog. He's a wonderful thing. My daughters love him to death, but I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment. I got no place for him. Every so often I'll stick him in the kennel for 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh God. She's like, do you have room for him? I said, I got 5 acres in Colorado. I said, I'd love to have him. I said, I'll take care of him for you. And, you know, so she said, please, problem is I'm unfortunately I owe a kennel bill. And I said, what is it? She's like, it's X. I said, no problem. I'll pay it. I'll come get him, bring him to Colorado. So now he's living his best life. Instead of looking for bombs and terrible things, he's chasing squirrels up and down a tree, you know, and just loving himself. So, and it's great because my cousin and I were 6 months apart, and we grew up together and spent tons of time at grandmom's and the whole everything. His mom's my aunt. My father's his uncle. So when I'm out of town, my cousin has Storm, and they get to, you know, keep each other company. And I know he's being looked after because my cousin's very thorough about looking after the dog. Don't let him do, you know, versus someone's like, oh, whatever, let him do it. Because that, you know, it's like a child in some capacity, right? So when I'm not there, he looks after him, and he gets to have company, and he's not alone. My cousin's not home alone because his dog died some years ago, and it was hard for him. And then when I get home, my cousin will take off and go somewhere and do a little vacation, and it'll be him and I and whatever. So it's been great. It really has. And I missed the dog. I wish I could bring him some places, but you know.
Well, maybe the dog will be in one of the movies.
Yeah, right. But he's just amazing. And again, an explosive detective dog. Wow. One time I took a gun shell, a casing, because I have a property, we shoot guns, and, you know, we do a little target practice. I took this shell casing, come here, and then I tossed it in the woods. I literally tossed it in the woods, and he went and got it.
Wow.
And that's this big. So.
That's more impressive than teaching a dog shake,
You know
right?
what I mean?
That's right.
But I'm glad he's not, you know, looking for, you know.
Yeah, he's enjoying life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's really
awesome.
I'm so grateful for him.
Eric, do you have any final things?
No, man, it was just
Yeah,
it was a really open conversation, and
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for coming on. It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I feel like I got a really good idea,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
about you, and it was
Sure.
really cool. So thank you for trusting us with
yeah,
your story.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
open up is
Yeah.
a, you know, I feel comfortable with you guys, so it's important, and that's a nice feeling. So.
Oh, well, and likewise, thank you so much. You have such a great energy. You're a great soul. I can recognize immediately, like, you're just a great person, great energy, great soul, and I'm excited for you because
Yeah.
your
Oh.
passion and then ambition. We preach that a lot in here, so we can feel
Sure,
it. Like, I
sure.
can honestly feel big things are coming your way. And Tommy, thank you so much. I give the guests the last word always. You've given us so much already. How would you like to end this podcast with us?
Be kind to each other, because the world knows we need it, and there's not enough of it. I feel like so. Be kind to each other.
Tommy, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Sam Dever, the Sam Dever Podcast here, and I just want to thank you for checking out this episode. To watch and listen to future episodes, be sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the Sam Dever Podcast. Thank you so much. See you soon.